Right, revenue. IAS 18, I remember 18, the old names still stick to my head. So 18 has become, IAS 18 has become IFRS 15. The same way I was talking about leases, where IAS 17 has become IFRS 16. You're gonna have these new updates in effect. So with IFRS 15, to be fair, the conceptual framework, even before the revised framework, has been very clear about how we identify. So what you're looking for in questions is really to be able to identify the contract very clearly and to separate the performance obligations. So typically this is between the product and maintenance, right? And then of course the issue is determining the transaction price. So there might be some variable consideration that you might have to do some present valuing for. There might be so some significant financing. So you're looking carefully for the interest rates and then allocate, if you like, between the different, if you like, performance obligations. Right. And then, so that's the key. So is getting those 5 steps in place. Those haven't changed, and just working through and making sure you're comfortable with the contract, but really trying to isolate the different parts of the contract and recognize them accordingly, right? Maintenance yearly, the you might need to recognize the consideration over, add all the present value together and do things like that. So it's just being very aware of what's going on. Of course, because pretty much we still had potential for a lot of manipulation. That's why you've had all these sort of steps come into play. If there is a right to return, if it's the fact that there is a you have it's possible that you will see they'll give it to you, this kind of some kind of percentage or probability. So it means that the consideration is variable, and you need to take that percentage or that probability into account. The other more interesting bit with this, going straight to that, is this business to dealing with construction contracts. So typically what you're looking for is this issue of the output methods and the input methods. This is, if you like, based on your survey along, and also the input method is very much based on you looking at how much you've covered when it comes to costs. This comes from FR. This is really from FR, so you should remember this, or you could go back. Again, we've talked about this in class anyway. This is all just pointing things out. So there's the issue of having to recognize contract assets and contract potential, or contract assets or contract liabilities. But really, the big points haven't changed, right? You're always trying to see if you can recognize profit based on completion, so to speak, on percentage completion. And if it's forecast that we will lose money because the losses we can already forecast right from the beginning will exceed the potential revenue, we must recognize that loss straight away. So that loss must be recognized straight away. But then we still recognize things based on that percentage. So whatever that percentage revenue was expected to be, you then balance it out with the cost of sales. And that becomes your difference. That becomes the cost of sale that you put through to arrive at that loss, so to speak. And that's where you're going. And yes, and I think that there's sometimes the issue of only making sure you include only the relevant costs in relation to the contract and not allocated general costs. That's important to always pick out on, because again, you're trying to create this T account for a contract cost, so to speak, that you will recognize whilst you're still building. So you'll recognize this contract cost. This is the amount of money you've put in. You'll recognize your profit. That's the amount of money coming in. The profit that you can recognize based on the percentage recognition, whether using the input or output method. And then of course, you will receive some money from time to time, and that will net off that's the money coming in bank, and that will net off the contract asset. And then you'll have your carry down figure. So really, it's making sure we have the right figures in place. But as usual, I mean, this is just to point out things and try and find some kind of relevance to the conceptual framework. There is no update in the relevant conceptual framework here, really. IFRS 15 is doing a good job on its own anyway. Okay.